Hi, Matt. So,
Hey Terry.
hi. So I'm here. I met you. We met for the first time at a Black retreat in the Dominican Republic in
hmm
April. So I thank you for agreeing to do this interview. I just want to have an interview with you so you can tell people a bit about your journey and what it's meant for you. But I'll ask you some questions and we'll get started. If you want to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself and your story.
Sure. Where should I start?
Just so where are you at? What brought you to look for something else? Because you've been working with a company
Mhm.
and you're still with that company, but you've been working with them for quite a while. So tell us your story about why you wanted to look for something new. Please.
Sure. Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah. Like on a base foundation. Yeah. My name is Matt Lozano. Right now, I'm residing in Ottawa, Canada. But yes, like Terry, like you're saying, I've been working for the same company for 6 years, and essentially over that time period, so over the time of like when I finished college or my degree in business, I went into the corporate world. So I started working in the corporate world. So I worked for a first company, worked for that company for about a year and a half, then transitioned to another job because it was a job that I could be out in the field. So because I felt like I was really constrained in an office working in a cubicle, felt like I was kind of trapped. So that was part of the reason why I wanted to kind of find the job where I could be outside or out in the field kind of thing. So the first job, I liked it. But over the years, what happened is that uh, I realized that all I was chasing wasn't what is it that I thought I would be having, right? So, like at 25, or I guess I had some ambitions in my life, and I thought that I would find like a career or a job or something that, like, what, I'd be excited about waking up in the morning for, and actually being enjoying it. And it came to a point in my career to be like to start realizing like I wasn't on the path that I had thought out to be. And I was also very like insecure. I had a lot of like insecurity issues as well too. So I kept myself stuck. I kept myself stuck in a position, and I had a lot of things to deal with. And then there was one thing one day where because I was dealing with a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety attacks, a lot of panic attacks. And certain times I'd get panic attacks, and then I'd go to the emergencies and everything would be like, oh no, and everything's fine. You're okay.
Is
But
that because you felt stuck where you were?
And that was part of it, yes. So there was that. There was my insecurity issues, but the last panic attack, I guess I would say, that I went to the hospital for. I guess I could call it my wake up call. It was sort of one of my wake up call at that point, to be coming to a point of being like, holy shit, like there's something going on here. My body's trying to tell me something. And that's when I started to reflect on myself. I started to reflect on myself, on trying to understand, okay, well, what's going on? Why am I feeling this way? And one of the things was my career. So it was my career that was just like, man, like I came to a point of realizing that I wasn't passionate about it. I wasn't excited about it, right? So the key thing was that I thought I'd be doing something that I'd be passionate about, something that like I said, and I'd be excited about. So that's when I started to like reflect on myself and really think on, okay, well, what is it that I can do? Like, what is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that I can do with that? Right. Now I didn't have the answers at that point, but I started to search. I started to kind of like look for ideas, look online, look for other jobs, look for other opportunities. But even when I was looking for other jobs, I was just like, well, I could do that, but I still had like an underlining feeling like it would just be another career and another job, and probably still feeling stuck and confined again, right? And then meantime, I was getting promoted in my job as well too. So I'm like, okay, well, I started to justify it and say, well, okay, I guess maybe I should continue on. But I just continue to search and continue to grow, and then I just got myself surrounded with like inspiration and And one day I read so first of all, I read the book The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and he was talking about online businesses, and I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting, because I'd love to have the freedom and flexibility. So I'm like, okay, that could be cool. But then I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book by Robert Kiyosaki, and that's when I'm like, that just opened up everything for me, because I was just like, oh, so I don't have to work and I don't have to trade my time. And there is opportunities that, I can actually generate passive income where I don't have to trade all my time for money. Right. So I was just like, okay, all right, this is interesting. So really it started to open up my mind to a whole other spectrum of opportunities instead of just finding other jobs and other careers. I just opened it up to be like, okay, maybe I can go into entrepreneurship, or maybe I can go into investments, or, I just didn't know where exactly at that point again. So I continued to search. And then I started to fall into a lot of different programs online. I would search online and be like, okay, what can I do to generate an income? And then what can I do how do I start an online business? Or how do I do this? Or how do I make money online? And then, signing up to a bunch of ideas and programs, bought training programs, bought mindset training programs. But none of them, like, there was mindset that it was useful, but then there was other ones that was just like, okay, I could make this work, but I wasn't excited about it, right? I was just like, it'd just be a means to making an income. And I was just like, I feel like I want more than that, right? So I was losing hope one day, and I remember just like I was sitting on my computer, I was just losing hope. I was just fed up because I had like came up with ideas of things that I wanted to do, but again, I just didn't know where to start because I just didn't have the experience, right? So I was just sitting there, and I was just kind of like getting a little bit like frustrated with looking for ideas or looking on how I can do this or where do I start. And I'm like, okay, let's go back to the basics and say, well, what are my passions? Like, how do I find my passions? Because I'm not 100% sure. Like, I didn't know really what I was passionate about. I knew there are things I love, but I didn't know like what am I passionate about and what I can generate an income with it, right? So I started looking on YouTube, and I put in like how to find your passion, and then there was a TED Talk, right? So, and I like TED Talks because they're usually credible speakers or known speakers, and that's when I saw the ad from Chris from Australia, who's talking about, he was sharing a very similar story to mine, talking about working full time in a unfulfilling job and trading all the time and not having that flexibility and freedom. And that was one of the main thing that I wanted to I was looking for, is just having that freedom and flexibility. Yeah. And that's when I was just like, okay, that sounds interesting. So that's when I first got introduced to the SFM, saw the video series, and even through the process as well too. I kind of like, is it legit, or is it like, I had my skepticism still kicking in, but and I was still working with other programs. I had signed up to other training and affiliate marketing programs, but kept coming back to this one just because it made sense. And and I'm glad that I did, because it put me on a whole new path, and a path that I'm super happy and excited about now, because it put me on a path to really finding myself and get the right support to help to do that as well too, right? It's like I realized that over time, it's not just a like buy this and you get a series of videos and that's it, right? I mean, there's continued support and all that stuff. But that's sort of where my journey has taken me to the point of being introduced to the SFM.
And I was just thinking, your journey sounds so much like mine and probably so many other people, but the only difference between me and you, I think, is that you figured it out so much earlier than me. And I don't know if it's like the same thing. I never knew there was anything else, right? I always thought like this is, and maybe as you get as the internet grows and grows, more people are starting to realize that there's more that you can do than just, but I was brought up that, you should have a job and you have to work and I wish I figured that out earlier. I'm glad I figured it out now, but
Mhm.
um, okay, so
I'll
how
make.
have,
Can I just make a one
yep,
quick point?
yep,
I would just say to that is everybody are ready at the time that they are ready,
yeah, yeah,
right? There's no exact time that it's supposed to happen. It's whenever they're ready.
yeah,
Because even if this opportunity is now, yes, getting more and more available, and more people are aware about it, there's still a lot of people that are still going through their life like normally, like nothing is
yep,
going on, right? And they're still going on the same path, and they're still repeating the same day, and they're still repeating the same patterns that we've been told and engraved in our minds that the way of life is, you know, get a school, get an education, get a job, work in that job until retirement. And you know what? Like, I mean, I'll give that credit because yes, 100 years ago, or even as short as 50 years ago, that was one of the main ways of going at life, right? You
yeah,
could go in entrepreneurship, but it was traditional entrepreneurship, right? But now, even though that this is happening, there's still a lot of people that are clueless. So, yeah, it's going to take time, and there are people that gonna, maybe realize it later on. They're going to realize it now, or maybe they'll never realize it, right?
or
Uh,
they might be like me and they get forced to realize it,
yeah, yeah,
by losing
yeah,
a job, or so that's because that's the
yeah,
reality these days. Like there's job security is really a thing of the past. Staying in a
absolutely.
job for 40 years isn't, it's it's just not happening anymore because
Yeah,
like I when you go to school when you're in your 20s too, how do you like that's saying you pick a subject and you go to school, but you never ever change what you wanted to do when you're in your 20s. And that's just like, I don't think people are wired that way. People grow and they change, and so
yeah.
I don't
We are
know.
meant we are meant to grow. We are
Yeah,
meant to grow as human beings. That is part of our human nature. It's part of our human evolution.
yeah,
And the very sake of having any stress and anxiety in our life, it's because we are resisting this growth, right? We are resisting what is, and we're trying to bring it back to fitting into the box that we know. And
yeah,
you're right. I mean, we go to school and we think, okay, we chose this, and then we think, okay, well, because I chose this at when I'm 20 or when I'm 18. Sometimes at that point, we don't always know our true self, so therefore we just pick what we think it's best, or sometimes we pick it because we feel like people think that that's what's best for us,
yeah,
right? Or society feels it's best for us. And then we realize, like, wait a minute, no, I don't want to do this. And that's okay. And
yeah,
that's okay. And sometimes we think we have to stick to that pattern. We think that I used to think this way, or I made the decision like this 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Therefore, I need to continue. But no, that's just your ego wanting to protect itself because people has known you all this time as this person doing this career, this path, or whatever.
yeah,
But that that doesn't matter. I mean, what matters is what matters to you, right?
yeah.
So
And it
I know we can talk about this for
forever. I
forever.
know
Yeah.
it's so interesting.
Yeah.
The thing is, we sometimes like we get comfortable with positions or jobs, and then we just stay there, and I think that's what I did. I got
Hmm.
comfortable. I thought that's where I would be retiring, and yeah, my bubble was burst. But
Hmm.
um, okay, so what else do I want to ask you? So how have you found the journey? Like what kind of struggles have you overcome, or are you still are there struggles you're still overcoming? Like is there certain things that you're finding easy and certain things you're struggling with? Because me, personally, I had a hard time with mindset.
Yeah. I would say that yes, my mindset was been the biggest struggle for me on this journey. And I think it is for a lot of people, or for most people, when they come into this journey, especially when you're coming in from a mindset of employee, right? So employment, working full-time jobs, and being raised into that, right? Being raised into that mindset, that mentality. and to transition in order to entrepreneurship. That is like really the big shift. So I would say that, yes, that was the biggest growth, the biggest struggles that I had to go through, because like you said, we have these deep-rooted patterns that's been engraved in our minds, thinking that that's what it is, right? And so to overcome that has been the biggest challenge. Like things like like if it came to technical stuff, I felt like it was natural, because that was just kind of like, okay, here's the video, here's the step by step, do that. Okay, no problem. But yeah, it's been the mindset. It's like overcoming the pattern. So yes, like the understanding of the only way of making money is trading your time for money, right? That's one thing that I had to overcome. The understanding of like as well too, like the feeling of lack in money, feeling a lack in time, feeling lack of everything, right? Like it just having the lack, which is also like a pattern that we've been raised in a lot of times as well too, because then it's like, well, money doesn't grow on trees, and we don't have enough money for that, or we can't afford that, or I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. The more you think like that, the more that will come to you, right? Yeah. Like, and I know this, and I'm speaking from my own experience, because I was exactly thinking like that all the time. It was always about lack. Oh, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money. And then, but really when you remove all that, you think of abundance, and you think of like, okay, like there's abundance in the world. I'll find a way. I'll find a way. How can I find that? How can I find more money? How can I find more time? And as soon as I started to ask those questions, which I had help with from the coaches, and then it's just like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. I mean, I can go get a loan. I can go and leverage money from other places, and also just like removing the relationship as well too to the physical world, right? So removing your relationship with money. Because that's another thing that I had struggles with, is I had an emotional relationship with money, right? So it was just like, oh, it's mine. I cannot I cannot let it go. And, but when I understood that money is just a tool that we use for trade for goods and services, and at the end of the day, it's just a paper, and it's in this physical world, then it doesn't matter, like, because we seem to think that, oh, well, we're not worthy. We're not worthy of having more. We're not worthy of this, or not worthy of that. Thinking that we can't have that money, right? Just because we think that we only have this limited amount that we've been given, and that's it, right? And that's all we can use, and that's all we can work with. But when we remove that, then you start understanding that, no, there is no limit. There is no, like, there's abundance, and you remove the relationship with that. And I mean, there's been multiple layers of of stuff that I had to go through. Those are just a few examples of that. I had to deal with my own doubts. I had to deal with my own fears. I had to deal with my insecurities. Like I was okay to get in front of the camera, but I was nervous, and I would just talk about all sorts of different things or whatever that didn't really matter, right? And it was coming out of fear as well too. Like, you could really sense that, right? But back then I didn't see it that way, because I thought I was okay. But now if I look back at a video that I recorded back then, like, you can sense the insecurities and the fears inside of me, right? So yeah, I had to overcome those things. And to finish it off, it's clearer for me now as well too, that our growth is never ending. There's no destination, right? Because there were times there was just like, okay, like finally, I feel at peace. I've let go a lot of my insecurities, a lot of my fears. I felt more present. I felt like I wasn't like stuck in my mind all the time anymore, which was a big deal for me. And I had a lot of insecurities, and I had like freed myself from insecurities. So I'm like, okay, well, perfect. I got all the power that I need. Now I'm just going to kill it. And then the next morning I'm like, shit, where is that? Like, oh man, I don't feel it today. but that's just, it's part of the journey. It's because there is no destination. And when you think you're at a destination, that's your ego coming from the back door saying, no, coming in and saying, all right, let's deal with this now. And it's just like,
I'm
all right.
laughing because it resonates so much with me, because you will. One day you'll be like on top of the world. The next day your mind's playing all these things and telling you, well, you can't do this, and all these uncertainties and insecurities like that. So it's just definitely the journey is it's definitely changing our mindsets and our growth and how we think about things. And that's what I love that the most. I think that there's so much growth that I've just overcome in the past. I'm not there like yet, like you said. It's a journey that's going to keep going, but yeah. So
Well, you are there where you're at right now.
yeah, but I know there's still there's
always room for improvement. But yeah, it's like acceptance for where we are at right now is the first step, and then it opens it up to be, okay, I accept that right now I'm feeling like this. Okay. And then you can then like start to understand and seeing it from a different perspective to be like, okay, now why am I feeling like that? And then when you understand why you feel like that, then you could be like, okay, I know I feel like this. Okay, what can I do to fix that, right? Or what can I do to improve that, right?
or why am I feeling like that?
Yeah. But that is one thing. But for most of the time, it's just shit that we just need to let go.
Yeah.
Right. We just need to let go. And that was been a process for me. It's just a process of letting go. So, because when the mind comes up, or the thoughts, or the fears, just let it go, or maybe anger or something that comes up, let it go. And, and sometimes it still comes up, and still I have to be aware of that. Right. But, you're right. It's the journey is the best, is the best in your growth, because also what it is that it keeps challenging you.
Yep.
Right. It keeps challenging you. It's like, because if you like think in a traditional way, in a traditional economy of like trading your time for money, well, the job description will be this, right? So therefore, if let's say you want to reach this particular job that's, let's say high up in the corporate world or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, I need to, like, this is my destination. Therefore, I need to make sure that I got all those things done in order to fit that, right? So you're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to grow until I reach this, and then I'm going to get this job, right? But then what? Then what? Then you're like, okay, now I've got it. Now where do I go, right? So, it kind of like, it limits you, because then you're just growing to that level for this particular job, and then you're limiting yourself at that point. Like, that's another reason why I'm going into the business world and in an entrepreneurship, and this, leaving the corporate world, because it's limiting my potential, because I'm growing to be enough for that particular job, and that's what I've been realizing. But then you limit yourself, because then at that point, once you reach that, you're like, well, what's the point of me growing? What's the point of me learning if I'm going to be paid the same thing anyways? Yeah. Right. So you're like, so on this journey, it keeps on challenging you, and it keeps on challenging you in good ways, right? I mean, it's going to frustrate you. It's going to be, there's going to be times where you're going to be like, frustrated, you're going to feel a lot of different emotions. But that's okay. It's because that particular situation is happening for a reason. It's there for a reason. It's teaching you something. It's like life saying, hey, pay attention. Something's going on here, right? And then you're like, okay, what is the lesson here, right? So I'm in this shit. What is the lesson here, right? So, and when you approach things like that, then you keep on growing, because the more you overcome those things, the more you step out of your comfort zone, the more you grow.
There has to be a level of self-awareness. And that's the thing. A lot of people, they go through their lives and they don't think about who they are, much less where they are, right? They just work, and life goes on, and the years go on, and then one day they kind of wake up and go, how did I get here? And and is this where I want to be? And so, I mean, I put in a lot of my messages that you should really look at where you are and if this is where you want to be. And because life goes by so quickly, right? And before you know it, you're going to wake up and you're going to go, hold on, is this where I want to be? Because how did I get here? So it's really good that people, because you're younger than me, you have this self-awareness of, and you're thinking about where you want to be and where you want to go, and because I think that's a lot of people are missing that, right? So
yeah, and again, it's everybody's are at their own speeds,
their own,
right?
yeah. But
because I learned it, yes, and I've gone through that myself at I'm at the age I'm at right now, but who knows? It varies from one person to another, because for another person, it may take them more situations, more time in order for them to wake up, right?
I think there's people too that, well, I don't know, sometimes it has to be, I don't know, I think there's some people that just aren't self-aware, like that, like they I don't know, because it's tough too, because life gets so busy, right? It's hard to stop and think, am I going in the right direction? Especially if you've got kids, and just life's so busy that, so it's just, it's good when you can take the time and think where you are and where you want to go.
And that's the breaking point, right?
Yeah. And because I think that the more people that become self-aware and think about where they're going and change their life, so because I think times are changing, and you should, instead of just working, go through day to day doing the same thing, like find out what your passion is and make sure you move towards it, whatever it takes, right? Like, I think that should be the message. You should find out what brings you joy and do it. So what would you say to somebody who had reservations about joining SFM? What would you tell them? What would you tell them if somebody was asking you about SFM? What would you tell them? Because you yourself looked at other different affiliate marketers, and it's not just affiliate marketing anyway that you can do with SFM, but you looked at other different, and you said you kept coming back. So what kept drawing you back?
What kept drawing me back is the fact that there was something more there. There was something more there. So I'll speak, I guess I can put it two parts. So one part is in that moment when I was looking at those different options, and then I kept coming back to the SFM, especially when I started to look, okay, well, I checked the modules, and I checked module 1, and I started to really understand that there's more to it than just kind of like learning how to do online advertising, online marketing, building website, all that stuff. There's more to it. That's when I started to say, like, okay, this looks like this could really help me, right? Like, this could really help me bring me the things that I need in order to be successful online, right? Not just like the training of how to do it. It was like a lot about like, who do I need to be in order to be successful over and above those things, right? So that was like sort of the initial thought, and that's why I kept going at it. And I although I didn't understand it completely at that time as well too, I trusted it. I just trusted it. So that's what I would say. Like, if you're at that point right now, I would just say, like, if you're serious about this, like if you're serious about creating a digital life, creating a new lifestyle, especially incorporating that into the digital world, and you're serious about like, what is it that you want to do, then just trust it. Trust it. Go through it. Go through the modules. Do the things that they tell you to do, even though they may feel uncomfortable. Do it anyways. I skipped a lot of things at the beginning because I said I don't need this shit, and and I unfortunately had to go back a year later to the original modules and do it again and do the things that I had skipped because I thought I didn't need that, right? But that was my ego getting in my own way, saying, no, I'm good. I don't need to do the video challenge. I'm good in front of the camera. But no, little did I know, like, there was a lot of things that I needed to learn, and I learned from that journey.
Yeah.
What I would say for it as of right now, based on what I know in my journey as well too, is to add over and above the fact that, you know what, if you are serious about this, this is the way to go, because this is about creating a business that's going to be sustainable for the future, right? And when I mean sustainable, it means that you're going to build such a concrete foundation and such a concrete business and a building on top of it as well too, with this education, with the mentorship, especially when you get into the DEA programs, when you get into the brand incubator process at the platinum level. It's to really create this core foundation to be able to build something on top of it that's going to last and it's going to stand the test of time. Mm-hmm. Because this is based on your truth. It's based on you as an individual. It's based on what you stand for. It's based on what you're passionate about. It's based on your purpose. So it's something that's going to stand, right? Because you can look at other opportunities. You can look at saying, okay, well, I can do drop shipping and do sell products that are drop shipped from China, or do an Amazon fulfillment business, and like just find products that's on Amazon and just resell it and then make a commission. You can do multiple things like that, and not to say that doesn't work, but it's a lot based on just trying to chase that income, chase that money. Yeah. And what I realized on my journey is that money doesn't buy happiness. Money doesn't bring any happiness. Money is just money. Because that was one of my biggest issues in my corporate career. And when I started with the SFM, I was chasing the money. I was always chasing the money. It was just like, all right, I'm going to make like $100,000 in 3 months. I'm going to quit my job and be able to live my life. And then, whoa, I had faced the reality that, you know what, no, there's more to it than that. So that's what I would say, is that if you want to, like, if you're serious to create about this, and this is where you're going and this is where your life is going, then this is the right program for that, because it's going to help you really, really put yourself on a good foundation, solid foundation that's going to last forever. So that's going to stand anything that's going to come your way, because who knows, everything could change in the digital world later on as well too. And things could happen as well too. And, maybe there's going to be businesses that's going to change, or opportunities that's going to change. But when you have your foundation set, building your brand around you as an individual, then there's limitless potential in there. Because from that space, knowing who you are and building that foundation, man, it's like you can branch off to a whole millions of different things, right? You could build, this particular business. You can build an affiliate business. You can build a new business based on the value that you bring as far as mentorship. Maybe you want to coach people, or maybe you're passionate about fitness and you want to have your own fitness product lines that you go to China, which they help you with as well too. So you go to China, find the product, build a brand around that, and even brand your products as well too. So that way you're building all these branches based on what you stand for, what you're passionate about. So you can have a branch on, like, I'm passionate about health, I'm passionate about personal development, I'm passionate about online business, I'm passionate about cars, whatever, and then just have all these different branches. And people can come in and say, okay, I like what Matt's talking about for health stuff for over here. Then they'll come in, get the information, they'll be like, oh, what's interesting, that's, what's this about, like, online business stuff, or what's this about personal development stuff. And then they get to know you, right? And that's when you start creating real relationships in the digital world. And sometimes it just because you get all the content out there, right? So so you're basically attracting and building a whole brand for yourself.
And the part of this journey, right, is figuring out what your passion is. I think
Mm-hmm.
when you, with all this growth we do, we start to learn more about ourselves, and it helps us figure out what our passion is. And then you find, it's about finding a way to bring value to people and get your passion out to help other people. And it's just, I think it's a really good journey for that. I lost my train of thought. I think I don't have any other questions. Do you have any other thoughts you wanna add, or I think you might have said pretty much everything? Just don't want to make this too long, but
Yeah, well, I did share a few key points there, I think.
but you're happy, like if you were to look back at when you started, you wouldn't go, no, I'm not taking that path. You're happy that you found SFM and the journey you're on. And
Yeah,
right?
absolutely thrilled about it now more than ever. I wouldn't say that there were times on this journey where I had my doubts and I said, you know what, this is not working for me. I'm gonna leave this. I don't believe in myself. I don't believe in it. There was times where I had these doubts coming through, but I kept going, and I'm sure happy that I did, because those again was part of this journey, was a part of this journey growth. And that was again my ego coming back up and trying to like tell me otherwise, because the ego, what it wants you to do is go back to your comfort.
Yeah.
Right.
Where it's
back
safe.
to what you're known, where it's safe. Exactly. Right. So it wants you to go back there all the time. And that was a battle, right? That was a battle for me, but it is definitely the best battle that I ever had and ever conquered, because it's, you know what, it is exactly what stops most people from succeeding or doing anything valuable with their lives. Especially when they're chasing a big goal and they're chasing a big life, battling the ego. When the ego gets in your way, it's the best battle that you can ever have. And in that time, if you would ask me like the same thing about the battles that I had with my ego, I'd probably tell you, no, screw you, you don't know what you're talking about. Because again, that was just like, I was just dominated by this ego talking instead of me, my true self talking, right? So yeah, definitely I would never change a thing going back, because this journey has taught me so much. And you hit it on the point as well too. It's this journey of self-discovery, self-discovery, and finding like, what are you passionate about, what you truly stand for, and who is your true authentic self on the inside. Because that was the most transformational breakthrough that I had in my life on this journey. And this includes the journey that I had, growing from my time where I was very insecure and I would say depressed. I've never got checked, so I don't know, if it was clinically depression, but I would say that it was feeling like that. I would call it very dark times where, there were times where I had thoughts of like, what, is my life worth living? So that was a time where I was like, okay, no, there has to be a better way, right? So luckily I had some intuition to say there has to be a better way. So the journey from there to now, but to break away from being this person that I was pretending to be has been so liberating, so peaceful, because in my life up until very recently, I wasn't myself. I wasn't my true self, basically, so basically I was ran by my ego, because and quite honestly, I was lost in it, right? So I kept being someone that I wasn't, whether it was at work, whether it was with my family, whether it was with my friends. Maybe it was with my relationships, my close relationships as well too. And unfortunately, it created a lot of stress and anxiety in my life because I was constantly just trying to fit into all these roles based on people's expectations, based on other people's expectations, based on what I was supposed to say, what I was supposed to do, what I was supposed to be. And it was very rare. There was probably times in there that I was my true self, and depending on who I was with. But it was really rare that I was my true authentic self, meaning that everything was true. Like everything, I wasn't lying to myself and I wasn't lying to others, but that was very, very rare because I was so insecure in myself, thinking that I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to get ridiculed or laughed at. I always wanted to be good, and look good, basically. It was all about looking good, right? Like, how am I perceived to the outside world? How am I perceived to people? How am I perceived to this, and that? So this was always putting on this pressure on myself, having to try to fit that in.
And that's stressful.
And that's very stressful. Absolutely. That was like probably one of the biggest causes of my stress and anxiety, over and above like being stressed out about the time, like psychological time, basically, like stressing out about, in the past, this is who I was in the past, or I did this in the past, or I regret this about the past, or, and then I would compare the past based on the present. And then I'd be like, well, this was better, so I want to go back there. But no, you can't. It's always here. It's always in the moment. And when I experienced that moment in the past, I was in the present moment, right? And then same thing about the future. I was always trying to anticipate the future, be like, okay, I'm going to go out to dinner with some coworkers. So I would constantly just stress out about like, okay, I'm going to meet this person. I'm going to say hi. Oh, well, what if I run out of things to say? Okay, well, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about that. And if they say this, then I'll say that. So I was always trying so hard to anticipate my survival into the future. But it wasn't my physical survival. It was my psychological survival, basically, right? My ego wanted to survive in that future because it had created false self all this time. So therefore it was worried about, okay, well, what if they discover my true self, right? Or discover my bullshit. So I anticipate the future to be like, make sure I fit that thing, right? And that's, again, so stressful. So there's many layers of ego, and that's what I've learned a lot from my journey. And I read a lot of books on discovering that helped me a lot. And now it's something that I actually love to talk about because I've gone through that experience. I'm talking from experience. I'm not talking because I read this in a book and then I'm just repeating it. I'm talking because this is the life that I was living. I implemented the things that I've learned, and now I've come to a point to be able to understand it and articulate it, to share it, because there's multiple layers that we create ourselves, right? And whether it's based on what people perceives us as. Are we running out of time?
No, I've just something popped up, so no.
Okay.
No.
So like how people perceive us as, or how we perceive ourselves, or what is it that we worry about from our past and future, right? Yeah. So there's multiple layers of that we create on ourselves, and sometimes it's not something that like that's it. You just take off this mask and this jacket or whatever, and that's it. Like, it's a process on its own. And it's a lot of work. It could be painful at certain times, but it's definitely liberating on the other side. And yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so has it changed a lot of your relationships then? Because you're not, yeah.
It has. It has, for good, for the bad as well too. There's been some that's been painful, very, very painful that I was not wanting to, but it was almost like I had to. But with my friends and even with my family as well too, like, I've opened up so much more. I'm being more real, more authentic, just sharing from the heart. So there's no more like I and myself, right? There's no more like I think of this, but then myself filters it, and then it just blocks me, and then I don't say anything. It's just then it's more like I'm just just one, right? And there's more synchronicity. And again, I'm saying this, and it's not perfect all the time. It's not saying that I'm like I don't have my struggles.
Yeah.
I still have my struggles, but it's just I'm learning to implement this more and more, and the gaps are becoming longer and longer where I stand in this truth as much as possible, right? But yeah, definitely changed my relationships, because now like I'm meeting more people, and I'm opening up to more people, strangers that ends up being, friends, because I've opened up. It puts them in a position to open up and share from the heart, and then it creates better connections in that way, because that's what I realize is just that when
honest connections too.
Honest connections. Yes, exactly. It's not like, oh, well, this person is kind of like talking to me, therefore I need to make sure that I say all the right things because I don't want this person to leave me, right? Like there was a lot of times when I was very insecure, that was the case. I was trying so hard to say all the right things because I didn't want to end up being alone, right? So I would try to keep friends that really deep down, if I would think about it right now, they didn't really resonate with me, but I kept them, and I try to keep them because I didn't want to end up being alone, kind of thing, right? But now you're right, it's more like creating more meaningful relationships that I'm realizing, like where I'm staying at right now is somebody that I met on the plane coming back from Charlotte. So basically this guy I met three weeks ago. We were on the plane. We had a real authentic conversation. I got into my story. He got into his story. We were like just sharing from the heart. And then he said, if ever you need a place, because I was telling him like, where I was breaking up and I'm moving out of the house and being sort of homeless, I guess, if you can call it. He said, if ever you need a place, my place is open. So at that time,
awesome, Matt.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's a nice guy though too, right?
Yeah, definitely. And then we learned to know each other a lot more, and how we're, almost becoming friends. Like it's really interesting to be able to like meet this person on a plane 3 weeks ago, and now like he knows more about my life than what I've shared for the past 20 years. Like just because I've learned to open up and just being authentically real. And I know that there are going to be people that are going to be resonating with it, and they're going to be liking it, and they're going to be okay with it, and that may create a space for them to share. And that's what I hope to. But I also accept the fact that it may be too much truth for other people, and it may be too much for them to handle, and they may not resonate with it, and that's completely fine. And I'm okay with that, because I'm no longer here to please everybody. I'm no longer here to be the people pleaser, because that's what I've been doing for so long. It's about just me being truly authentic, and if the people that resonate with that and surrounds, then good, because those are probably the people that I want to surround myself with anyways. And if those that doesn't resonate with it, and that doesn't work out, then that's fine, because at the end of the day, yes, I mean, I wouldn't want to be surrounded with people that doesn't resonate with my true authentic self, because therefore it would just force me to be someone that I'm not again, right? And that's not what I want. So I'm fine with that. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with it, right? There's nothing wrong with that at all. Because we are all here for a particular reason. We are all here standing in our truth. And by standing in our truth, we are serving the people that need that particular perspective or that particular help that you bring to the world. And if somebody else says, well, you know what, I don't need that. Well, that's okay. That means that there's someone else that's going to fill in what they need help with in their life, right? What purpose that someone else is bringing that can help this particular person where they're weak in. And I'm going to focus on those who are weak in what I'm strong in, that I can help them, right? And that's this whole idea of living in your purpose, living in your truth, living in authenticity, because there is a reason why we're all here. And if we're all supporting each other that way, and like, I mean, I envision a world where we're all living in that purpose. We're all living in that space where we are all filling in our gaps, right? We're no one is there to try to please everybody. We're just here to serve the reason why we are here by being true and authentically to ourselves. and helping those people that need that particular help. And
Yeah.
sometimes that person may come into your life. You may meet them at an airport, talk to them for 5 minutes, and that could make a difference in their life.
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly. Exactly.
and sometimes that could be for 5 hours, could be for 5 years, could be for 50 years. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? And that same person that's coming in to serve their purpose towards you to help you where you are weak in or what you need help with, again, that you can meet that person and it could be a 5-minute conversation, and that could make a world of a difference in your life.
Yeah.
And so they're all coming in. Everybody that you come across with in your life, they're all coming in for a reason, whether it's to teach you something or to be a blessing and to help you, to guide you, or to serve in a way that's genuinely kind, right? So,
yeah. And we should always remember when we're talking to somebody, try and leave a positive impact, because you don't know what the person's going through, or right. And
yes, well said.
I've always done that, so that's something I have to live up for, because or live up to, because I think that's important to support, but to support
I agree.
people there.
I
What's
agree.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, because you're right. I mean, myself as well too. I've never stood into that role, or stood into just being authentic, but also being authentic to people. And even though I don't know their situation, you're absolutely right, because it's okay. Like sometimes we think, well, I'm not going to say this because I'm afraid it's going to hurt their feelings or whatever. But you know what? If it's in your truth and it makes sense and it's coming from genuinely your heart, it's not coming from your ego where you're angry at them and you want to like tell them, like, just almost like bring them down even further. But if it's coming from your truth, coming from your heart, and you feel it on the inside here, that it want to comes out, then share it kindly, because like you said, you never know what they're going through, and that kind word, that kind gesture of that little conversation that you had to have with that person that you may never even meet again in the rest of your life may actually make a huge difference in their lives, right, and in their day as well too.
Yeah, and I think that's important.
Absolutely.
I think we should have these conversations. We should do this again, because this is, I just think that people are going to get so much value from this. I hope some people might not, but I think people will listen to it and just get so much value. You're so insightful, and I really appreciate you taking the time, because I thought this was really good. I got a lot of value, but so I think we should get some time. But
absolutely, yeah. And first of all, I want to say thank you for giving me the space to share as well too. I mean, sometimes I don't want to get into that, and I'm trying to work on that as well too, like to get into it, because then therefore sometimes I got to watch, because my ego could come in and then sort of come in as a new identity kind of thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And as a new identity of being like, talking about all this stuff so I got to like be aware of it, because sometimes that could come out of ego, right?
Yeah.
And but however, I truly feel like I'm not diminishing what I've been talking about, because I truly feel like everything that I've been sharing has been coming from my heart.
Yeah.
Coming out of love. It's coming out of respect. So thank you. I just want to say thank you for giving me the space to speak.
I really appreciate this, that you took the time and we had this conversation, because I just I really enjoyed it. So
same here. Thank you.
So, thank you, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, sounds good.